public schools, but also by the city of Chicago, the county, the parks, the libraries. In Cook County itself, it rolls up to about $16 billion. And this amount of money is predetermined. The only reason we do assessments is not to raise money as a whole, but to divide that $16 billion burden amongst us. So assessments are there to determine share of burden. They don't determine the actual burden. If we want to, we can talk a little bit later about some of the things that create high property tax levies in the county and the rest of the state. But tonight, for your purposes, it's good to remember that assessments are about a share of burden. They don't raise in and of themselves. They don't change the amount of money that the city raises. So there's no incentive for us in the assessor's office or the city to raise assessments. It doesn't raise any more money. The key for assessments to judge if they're doing a good job is, are they reflecting market prices? Because the standard of fairness for how we divide up that cost of government, that $16 billion in Cook County amongst us all, is based on the market value of our properties, which is then translated into assessed values. So that's the law. Assessments are supposed to reflect market values, and that's the standard of fairness in the law. And so that's what we're charged with doing. We're really in office is about equity, taking a snapshot in time. What are the market values of all these different kinds of properties out there? We're 230 people trying to estimate the value of almost 2 million properties. Pretty challenging, they're all different, but we bring to this a lot of data, the best models that we can, to try to be the best mirror to the market so that there's no distortions anywhere. The second principle to remember is that all of our assessments are interconnected. If there are distortions in that mirror somewhere, that affects you. So if we're undervaluing certain kinds of buildings, certain neighborhoods, or certain large properties, even if your assessment's 100% correct and you agree with it, that still affects you. That's costing you because you're picking up some of the burden for the properties that are under assessed. So that's what we mean when we say that assessments are everyone are interconnected, because in Chicago, there's one total assessed value that we'll come up with at the end of the year. And your share, your property share of that total assessed value becomes your share of the levy that has to be paid in Chicago. So that's a very important principle. That's why we talk about assessments being about equity, because making sure that we're a good mirror to the market for every single kind of property, whether it's yours, your neighbors, or commercial properties across town, it all matters for you and everyone around you. So this leads to the third principle, which is the hardest to understand, but is really important for you as a consumer and citizen to know. And that's that a change in your assessment does not at all involve the same change in your property taxes, because the name of the game is about your assessed value as a share of total assessed value in the city. So if your assessment goes up, but total assessed value in the city goes up more, you could have a lower bill next year. And actually the median residential property tax payer in Chicago had a lower bill in the tax season just concluded because homeowners' share of the burden fell a little bit. There have been all sorts of people in the northern suburbs and in the southern suburbs who had their assessments rise the last few years, but their bills fell because they had a lower share of the burden. A good number to remember this year is that we've reassessed about 3/4 of the city so far. We haven't taken in appeals yet, so that number will be modified. But so far, assessed value is up somewhere in the neighborhood of 50% in the city so far this year. So that's something to keep in mind. If your assessment was up 10 or 20%, it might not feel pleasant to have your assessment go up, but it's going up a lot less than assessed value in the city, and it could translate into a lower bill next year. So that's a really important concept that I want you to remember. And if you really want to nerd out on this, you can follow up on the last 25% of assessed value in the city as we do that this year and see how much has changed in total versus your assessed value. Those numbers may change a little bit with appeals at our office and then at the Cook County Board of Review. But that's the best way to see what does a change in assessment mean for my tax bill. But the key thing to remember is an increase in your assessment is not going to translate into the same change in your tax bill. It'll probably be a much lower change and may go in the opposite direction. Okay, so let's look at here what happened with our mirror to the market this year. What are we seeing with assessed values when we took this snapshot in time in your neck of the woods in what we call North Township, which is not really a thing except for a geographic term of convenience. This is the part of Chicago that's north of the river and east of the river and south of Fullerton. You can see here on the heat map, the areas, the gray is $2 million or more is the average estimated single family property value in the market. You can see the area where it's 1 to 2 million. And then as you get closer to the river, further west, sort of in the center, it's more in the 500,000, 750,000 range. But remember, these are just averages. We in our modeling are trying to be really sensitive to the characteristics that we know about your home. So even if there's an average like that, if you have an older home that hasn't been renovated or has different characteristics, we don't want someone who has a newly built McMansion right next to your old fixer-upper to influence your value in an excessive way. We want to treat your home the way someone in the market would. So averages are just averages, but we try to look more into the details. Okay, we can go to the next slide. Here's a little bit of context for how much assessed value changed in North Township. You can see the blue line is how much residential value changed from 3.2 to 3.7 billion. That's an increase in the mid-teens, which is actually one of the lowest areas of increase in the city. You'll see why in just a second. You can see commercial value went up more from 3.8 to 6 billion. You can see the change in the total base is in North Township is up about 40%. It's up a little bit less than the rest of the city so far, partly because of the impacts of some of the troubles that have happened on the Magnificent Mile, but also just because residential values are not up quite as much. But in the city as a whole, which is the one that really matters for you, assessed values up around 50%, actually a little bit more so far, with 75% of the city in the books before appeals so far. So again, I just wanted to hit these points again. Remember, even if you don't own commercial property, what's going on with assessed value for commercial property matters to you because it affects that's the size of the base. And the larger the size of the base, the lower the rate on your home in your share of the levy is lower. So that's why it matters. All of these things matter to you as a citizen and as a taxpayer. So we've hit those other points. We can go to the next slide. Is this the last slide, or is there, I think there's one more here. Kellen? While we're waiting, you can find a lot of resources on our website at cookcountyassessor.com, and you can dig into all of in much more detail on the neighborhoods, the neighborhood that you're living in, because each neighborhood, even within your part of the city, is very different. We have a very detailed breakdown on the different assessment regions that we look at. You can see what the average sales are. You can see what the range is. You can see the number of transactions that we saw. But while we're waiting for the next slide, the next slide is going to show you how much prices changed in your the neighborhood as a whole in North Township. You can find a lot of detail on our website at cookcountyassessor.com. Teresa, did we lose Kelwin there? Oh, you're muted.
Yes, I believe we lost him.
Okay.
And let's just see, you know what, Fritz? I'm going to try and see if I could share some slides, if that's okay.
Okay, yeah, that'll be great. You can do this.
Okay, that's fine.
Appreciate it.
I
know we want to get the, oh, here's Kelwin.
Okay, that's fine, because I was going to start sharing. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. I think it was my my Wi-Fi crashed. We're
all overcoming a lot these days, so
okay.
Thanks everyone for
I know
with
you're
us.
an expert at ad-libbing, Fritz. Let me let me get back to the presentation. So
well, I think the next slide was going to be to show us now that we've looked at what happened in North Township, in terms of assessed value was
Yeah,
to show
slide number
people what
4.
happened with house prices.
For sure. Mhm.
So if we go to the next one. Yeah, okay. So here, everyone, you can see what happened with house prices in North Township. They've been flatter than in the rest of the city. In the rest of the city, we've seen more of a general upward trend in house prices. Here we're seeing average prices or flatter. We did, reduce assessed value in the neighborhood last year because of our COVID adjustments. So some of probably most of the increase in assessed value this year is because of the strong housing market in the second half of last year. It was a stronger market in the second half of last year. And so you can see the range that we see. The areas between the green lines are sort of the bottom third of the market, and then the top third of the market. And that middle third is that green area. And you can see it's between 900 and 1.4 million for single family homes, and condos more in the 270,000 to 420,000 range. And those are our estimates. And the question for you when you're looking at your assessment is the market value that we estimated for your home in your assessment correct? Is that what you believe your house could sell for? If you don't think there's any way that you could sell your house for that price, that's an indicator that we might have fallen off the mark there, which can certainly happen. As I mentioned, we're 230 people estimating the value of 1.9 very different properties. Here is what we do is we look at the transactions that took place last year, and we exclude 10% of the transactions. And when we test our model against those transactions that we use as a testing for testing and training our model, and it's showing improvement. We think at least in the bottom 2/3, the model is now estimating pretty accurately where homes are. On the top third, we are still seeing a little bit of underestimation. And that's because we can't see inside homes. Sometimes the Martha Stewart kitchen inside a house makes all the difference in the resale price, and we typically don't see that. We're trying to get a little bit better using better data, better modeling techniques for higher end homes, but we are showing improvement versus where it was last year. Why does that matter? If you don't own a top end home, it matters because top end homes are part of the assessed value. We want to make sure we get it right for everyone, so that we're being the best possible mirror to the market, the best steward for you that we can be. Okay, we can go to the next slide. Here is sort of the statistic or the graphic that we think about here at the assessor's office when we're thinking about the assessment system. This is the mental model that we'd like to leave you with, which I think you should all be thinking of, which is what are different shares of the burden that different kinds of property owners have in our property tax system. And you can see in North Township, because commercial values rose faster, commercial and industrial rose faster than residential, homeowners are bearing a little bit less of the burden through this first part of the assessment process. 46% versus was where it was in 2018, and we're seeing an 8 percentage point decline to 38%. So even though assessment's going up, homeowners share the burden going down. And this is the thing that can lead to lower tax bills. And it's generally been the case in the suburbs when we've reassessed it in the last 2 years. We expect that to happen in the city. Again, the assessed value base in the city is rising about 50%, a little bit more so far this year. If your assessment's rising significantly lower than that, there could be a good outlook. There are a couple things that still have to happen. We have to take appeals at our office for folks like you. The board review has to do the same. We've got a couple townships left in the city of Chicago to do. But the picture is starting to emerge. And this is, if we're looking at this chart for the overall city, we're seeing a 9 percentage point decline so far in homeowners' share of the levy, the tax burden so far. As I mentioned here at the bottom, these percentages can change after appeals at our office and at the Board of Review. Board of Review tends to give more reductions for commercial than residential, so keep an eye on that. But this is the best picture that we have so far. Okay, you've been really good in sticking with me so far on this big picture stuff. We're about to get to the citizenship part, but I just wanted to mention a couple of other things while Kelvin was gone in that hiatus. I mentioned that you can really dig deep on your neighborhoods if you want to at cookcountyassessor.com by going into data and valuation reports. Here you can see, the broad level in North Township. There are 3,800. Oh, if we go back one slide. Yep, 3,800 single-family homes. You can see the number of sales that happened, and that's the price range for them on the first line. The second line is 2 to 6 flats. You can see the number of sales there were significantly lower, and you can see the price range. And then at the bottom, that's condos. You can see the number of condos, the number of transactions, and the price ranges paid. But you can dig even deeper if you want to get more detail, if you're looking for comparables, if you want to see some heat maps and transaction maps, you can get all of that by going to our website. Okay, almost done with the high level stuff, guys. I promise we're going to get to the super practical stuff next. So real briefly, our job here, the only reason we do assessments is to equitably divide up that levy that's determined by our taxing bodies. And assessments don't raise revenue on their own. They're about dividing up that burden amongst us. So your share of the burden depends not only how you're assessed, but how everyone else is assessed too. And us doing a good job means we're being a good mirror to the market for everyone, not letting distortions get into the mirror. We do estimate all these values by using a mass appraisal system where 230 people assessing the value of 1.9 really different properties. And we can't see important details about your homes. You are 100% sure to know more about your home than we do. And the appeals process is a great way to put forward some of the things that affect the value of your house that we might not see, that our model might not have taken into account or even known. And that's why we do the appeals process. And the other thing that our office does is we administer exemptions, and we'll talk a little bit more about that tonight too. So how about I hand this off to the great Teresa? She can take it from here.
Okay, well, thank you so much, Assessor Fritz Kagi. And we also want to thank the Alderman for having us here tonight. We're going to talk about a little bit about how to file an appeal if you believe your assessment is too high. Okay, next slide, please. So filing an appeal with our office is free. Yes, it's free. You don't need an attorney. All you need is your email address. When is the best time to start filing your appeal? Is when your township is open, is when you can file. Once you receive your reassessment notice, you have 30-day window to file your appeal. Of course, you can save it, you can modify it. You can also upload your attachment before submitting it, all right? And I'm gonna talk a little bit further down the slide, how to file your pictures, an appraisal, and things of that nature, okay? But it's free with our office, and you can file online. At one time, many of you may know, we were paper filing. We've done away with that, okay? We're making it convenient for you in the comfort of your own home and even your smartphone or your tablet. It's free, okay? Now, the Cook County is being reassessed. That means that the third of the county is being reassessed. The city is being reassessed. The city of Chicago in which you live, the North Township is being reassessed. And so you should have received a reassessment notice. These notices come from the Cook County Assessor's Office only. We're responsible for mailing you your reassessment notice. It's important that you receive it. And if you do not receive your reassessment notice, please let us know. We will mail you out a reassessment notice. It has very important information about your prior assessed value and your current assessed value, and also your characteristics. Now, why is it important that you have your reassessment notice and also you have your property tax bill as well? It's because all your exemptions in your appeal results, your certified assessed value results are on your second installment bill, okay? So once your notices are mailed, it's to have an important date for you to file your appeal. Your characteristics are on there, and also your prior market value and your current value of your home. So if you believe that you are overassessed, you may file an appeal based on your notice, okay? Now, we're living in a time where we're receiving paper still, of course, you receive your reassessment notice, but just say perhaps you misplaced your reassessment notice. You can also go to our website, our office, everything's online. You can conduct almost everything online. You can find out when your township opens, when your reassessment notices are going to be mailed, and also the last day to file your appeal. Now, the last day to file your appeal with North is October 19th, okay? October 19th. So September 17th, the notices were mailed. You have it to October 19th. So you still have some time to file your appeal, as I stated, online, and it is free, okay? Now, we have a short presentation of video on how to file your appeal online. For those who have never filed an appeal online, our video will walk you through how to file your appeal online. As I stated, all you need is an email address in the comfort of your own home, of course, your smartphone, and remember, there's 30 days to file your appeal. You start drafting your appeal, you can save it, you can modify it, and also you can upload your attachments, all right? But filing an appeal is, I have to emphasize, it's free, because many of you have received letters from attorneys stating that they can save you money, and you can do this yourself. If you need help, you can always make an appointment, come to our office, or come to our downtown office, and we can assist you with filing your appeal, okay? But please, take a look before you start your appeal. Go through the video, watch the video. It has very informative information on how to file your appeal, okay? Now, what are some of the reasons why a person may want to file an appeal? And this is the common ones that we see. The first one is lack of uniformity, all right? That means your assessed value assigned to your home, what we assign to your home, is higher than comparables, similar to those in your area. That's lack of uniformity. Their assessed value is lower to your home, and it's the same home. Overvaluation, simply you're overvalued. You believe based on, or you have documentation that your house is overvalued on the estimated market value that we've placed on your home. It's overvalued. That's the second reason why people file an appeal. And the third is incorrect property description error. What is incorrect property description error? Well, we say that you live in a 2-story home and you actually live in a 1-story home. Or we say you have 2,500 square feet and you actually only have 2,000 square feet. These are reasons to file an appeal. And these are some of the ones that we see. These are the number 3 reasons why people file an appeal with our office online. Now, file an appeal, like I said, is very simple. Also, you can go to our website and use our interactive mapping tool. It would help you find comparable properties. Now, we also have a staff, a great staff of residential analysts. You don't have to find comps unless you want to. You may have found some yourself, and you can also add them to your appeal. Our analysts will do all this work for you. As I stated, it's free and we will do the work. All you need to do is submit your appeal online. Now, if you are filing your appeal and you have additional pins, and some of you may have an additional pin, you add it where it says additional pin on this on the appeal site, or if you have attachments, say you have photos or you have an appraisal, or you want to write a narrative, not a book, but a narrative, and you want us to read it. You can file all of this on your appeal. As I stated, we're here to help you. If there's something that you would like to see that's needed on the appeal option, let us know and we'll make changes next time. But right now, it's online at the comfort of your fingertips, okay? We're here to help you. We want to help you. File the appeal if you believe your assessed value is overvalued, your market value is overvalued, or if you have proof, submit the documentation, write the narrative. We will go through your appeal, okay? Explain whatever you like and we will read it. Our analysts are there and they will go through everything that you submit. So we have 8 exemptions in our office. I won't go through all of them because we want to give time for you to answer your questions, but we have 8 just wonderful tax savings exemptions, okay? The homeowners, the senior, you must be 65, the persons with disability exemption, the returning vet exemption. Now, returning vet means like active duty, active war, not World War II, like my dad was in World War II. The veteran with disability, you must have service-connected disability, okay? Injured in the war, not from that snow that we had last year, but actually injured in the war. And if you have 30% or greater, you can apply for that veteran with disability. The long time exemption, you must have been in your house over 10 years, and there's other requirements. But I want to say about the long time exemption is that only 2% actually qualifies, and that's about 11,000 homes, okay? 11,000 homes. So letters were mailed out to the ones that we found out that qualify, that actually qualify for this exemption. And also we have the home improvement exemption, okay? So the second installment bill is very key to finding out if in fact you have received exemptions. And I'm gonna have you receive your exemption. Are the exemptions on your bill? In your lower left-hand corner where it says tax calculator, you will find your exemptions and the amount of money that you saved, okay? If you see $0 and you actually qualify for your homeowners, your senior freeze, disabled persons exemption, let us know, okay? And we can apply those exemptions, and those are called certificate of errors, all right? Now, if you're missing those exemptions, we can actually go back 3 years. We can go back to 2017, 18, and 19. You apply online, as I stated, everything's online in our office. Mostly everything's online in our office, and it's fast and it's convenient. For you, of course, we designed all of this for the taxpayers. The assessor's office, we will process the certificate of error. Once we process the certificate of error, the Cook County Treasurer's Office will mail you the refund check. It's that simple, okay? But we can go back to 2017 and 18 and 19 and apply those certificate of errors. Certificate of errors are refund money, okay? Now, please follow us on social media, all right? And our number to reach us at 312-443-7550, all right? Thank you all. And we're going to open this up for questions and answers.
Okay. Thank you so much, Teresa and Assessor, for that valuable information. October 19th, underscore that. That's the important date to remember as far as appeals for North Township. So remember that. You still got plenty of time to appeal. As Teresa mentioned, it's very convenient to do online. Certificates of error, I want to underscore that as well. I mean, that's huge. We've gone out, we go all around the county and find people all the time that, did not get the homeowner's exemption or didn't know that they could apply for their senior exemption. And it's really dramatic sometimes the savings that we can go back and get those refunds for those exemptions. So please look at your bill very closely, as Teresa explained. As you guys may have noticed, we've got some of our team in the chat as well. So we've got Michelle, who I introduced in the beginning. Hector Dominguez has joined in as well. He's been answering many of your questions. So, we like to do that to get through as many questions as possible, just make it a bit more interactive and engaging. But we do have some questions that we can present to the assessor and to Teresa and the Alderman, if there's some for him as well.
Teresa and Hector are two of our greatest experts, so you guys are fortunate to have them both in the house. Well, let's take it away. Take it away, Kelvin. You want to read the questions?
Okay. So we've got one from David. Please put the website up again that we use if we can't find our tax notice. So by tax notice, I'm wondering if he's referring to the reassessment notice.
Yes, he's speaking about the reassessment notice. If he drops his pin in the Q&A, or he can call us, we can actually mail him another reassessment notice out if he hasn't received his notice.
Yeah, so your notice would not be on our website. You could search for your property on our website, but you would contact one of us or just contact our office, and we can send you out another notice. I do recommend though you put it right into the Q&A if possible. That way you've got people on here that can just take care of it right now. You know, so I appreciate that question. Let's see, owned and occupied by whom? Looks like Hector is answering that question. Let's see.
I think we had a good one about condos.
Yeah, I'm filtering through now. If you see it, Fritz, go ahead and just jump in.
So there are a lot of condos in Alderman Hopkins ward and in this part of Chicago. So we probably got a lot of people watching us here tonight who have a condo. State law requires us to value condos in a way that you probably would not seem to make much sense to you, but that's the law that we have to live with, and so that's how we do it. We have to value the whole condo building. So, and in doing that, we only have a tiny bit of information. We have the dimensions of your whole condo building. We have the information, we have the number of units, and then we have your unit's share in ownership of the building. And that is it. We don't have any information about what's inside the unit, the number of beds or baths or dimensions. It's not how a typical buyer would probably price a condo, and it can lead to some weird things if you have a condo where you've not made any renovations, but lots of other people in your condo building have, and their condo is transacted. So the way appeals are done on condos is generally it's best to appeal as a whole building because we value the whole building, and your assessment comes from your percentage of ownership in that whole building. It's best to appeal as a building in the condo process. Your condo association leads this process, and they can appeal on behalf of the building, and you should work with your condo association to do that. I know there are some small condos out there, so might require some agency on your part to make sure that you have a association that's active enough and engaged to make the appeal, but that's what you should do. They do not have to hire a lawyer, just as you do not have to hire a lawyer for any appeal. Condo boards tend to hire lawyers more, but just so you know, it's your money. You don't have to hire them, and you are experts on your condo building in a way that no lawyer is. And our analysts truly make the assessment decisions on appeals based on the data, and not on, certainly not on the identity of the lawyer, because they're anonymized now under our administration. So that is a decision you can make, but you should appeal as a building so that you're just not affecting your piece, you're affecting the whole building in doing that. And we think it would be a better idea if we had better data about condos to assess them in a different way, but the law tells us that we have to value them like this. You might also want to check to see if your percentage ownership of the building is a fair reflection of your market value share of the building. Sometimes we find that there's a transaction that took place on the penthouse in a 10-unit building, and yet that penthouse has the same percentage ownership as everyone else, and that can lead to our model overvaluing the whole building. So it's important to have the percentage ownership up to date too.
Okay, got some
Assessor, if I could,
oh, go ahead.
if I could just
Alderman.
interject briefly on this, because I echo the sentiments expressed earlier that you really don't need an attorney. Attorneys are active in this space, as you mentioned. They solicit business as they have the right to do. You can do it yourself. The asterisk next to that statement is for condo associations, particularly larger ones. If you have a board member that is willing to take it on, yes, you could do it yourself. You don't need an attorney, but it's just a question of the labor, the amount of work involved. You may want to consider using one of the established reputable attorneys that work in this space. The fee that they typically charge is contingent on the reduction that they can get for you. It ranges, say, 10 to 20%. So, maybe a little bit more.
And you can negotiate
it's
that.
negotiable. Yeah, it is absolutely negotiable. So I'm not going to say you need to get an attorney, but as a responsible condo board, if there's anyone, considering on this call, do your due diligence and consider it. Be open to it. Shop around. If you can find a good attorney that you trust and negotiate a reasonable fee, it may save you guys a lot of time trying to do it yourself, especially for larger buildings. So I just wanted to put that out there. Thank you, Assessor.
Okay, we got a couple of homeowners exemption questions that have come in. This was really interesting to me. Does the homeowners exemption apply to only the dwelling pin? I noticed in the past, it's been applied to my parking space as well prior to this person's ownership. This is from Robin W. Should I apply for an exemption in this case? Do you apply for exemptions for your parking pin? How does that work? Or should they be consolidated? Or if you got a separate pin for your parking space, how would that exemption work?
So I'll take it. Oh, wow. Okay.
Go ahead, Teresa. Thank
So
you.
yeah, it's your primary residence. We do not apply a homeowner's exemption to a parking lot or a parking spot. It's your primary residence that receive the homeowner's exemption. And one thing I do want to say, I think I saw it in the chat, is that make sure it's your primary residence. Oftentimes people have more homes, another home someplace else in another state or in the same city. Just make sure that you only apply for one residential home exemption on that residence, or it could be factored as a erroneous exemption. So just make sure that that homeowners is on the residence and not on a lot.
Follow up to that, Teresa, just from my own curiosity. Can they consolidate pins in that
Consolidate.
case?
Oh, definitely.
A parking lot with the home, and that then sort of take into consideration the entire
we
entity,
have people.
the entire.
People all the time. I'm sorry about that. They consolidate their pins. If they own two condos next to each other, they consolidate their pins. So that's a possibility. It doesn't change their tax bill, of course. And oftentimes people do think that it would change their tax bill. But yeah, we can consolidate their pins, of course. They would need to go to our division department for consolidation.
So let's see, looking at open questions. I think some of the open questions have been answered. I'm going to go back to some of the things that Hector and Michelle may have touched on, but I think it's just useful to kind of hear collectively. So this is an anonymous person. I'm being taxed on the price I paid for my home 2 years ago. That's the first problem. My next door neighbors have the exact same new construction home. One closed a month before me and the other closed 4 months later at a higher price. One home pays $2,000 in taxes. The other pays $5,000. I pay almost $10,000. I appealed, no luck. Person says they're hurt, angry, and upset, trying to find some help and wants to be able to keep their home. So talk about lack of uniformity, Teresa, in your presentation. They're seeing a bunch of different values. So, I mean, I think certainly a perfect candidate for an appeal, maybe overvaluation or lack of uniformity. Any other thoughts?
So I would definitely encourage them to file an appeal if they're the same comparable home. But remember, individuals are receiving exemptions on their homes. So we have to take into account, they're saying what they're paying. You compare assessed values, you don't compare tax bills. You're comparing comparable home to a comparable home. That person may have a disabled veteran exemption on their home or senior freeze on that home. So you can't go around comparing your tax bills to your neighbors or a person around the corner. You want to add to that, Fritz?
Well, yes, that's all very well said, Teresa. But as Colin said, there can be issues of disuniformity in our assessments, and you have a right to be assessed like the person who has your home if they're assessed at a lower level.
Yes.
So, in that, unfortunately, this is the first year that we get to send out a reassessment that is replacing the assessments from the Barrios administration. So, these assessments are 3 years old. So this year, hopefully we're cleaning that up. But, again, our new assessments, we can make mistakes just like anyone else can. And if in the new assessments you're seeing that disuniformity, that's a perfect grounds for appeal.
And I want to say to that too, if they believe that they are comparable, add them on their appeal, put them as a comp.
Great point, Teresa. Okay, excellent. Similar question on valuations. This person almost wants kind of a do-it-yourself, property tax valuation tool here. This person asked, per the reassessment notice I received, my estimated fair market value went up 70%. Based on this new assessed value, can I compute my 2021 total tax using the 2020 equalizer and 2020 local tax rate? Or is that not accurate? If it's not accurate, is there a way to know in advance what the tax bill would be? So this person, wants to know, how do you just kind of do it yourself, kind of at least give yourself some predictability with all the factors and variables in the property tax system? How about you take that, Fritz?
Yep, it's not going to be accurate because there's several different variables that are moving in the new assessment. So the key thing to remember is in our state, in Chicago and in the state of Illinois, we don't have fixed rates. The rates float. And you'll remember at the start of the discussion, I talked about how it's really all about your assessed value compared to the total assessed value in the city. That's where the rate comes from. If you hear discussion of the equalizer, if you live in the city, it's not going to affect you because it's applied to both the numerator and the denominator. It doesn't change your share of assessed value. Once you take into account exemptions, it might a little bit, but not that much. The real name of the game is how much is your assessment changing, but then how much is total assessed value in the city changing. I mentioned that so far it's up, total assessed value in the city is up a little bit more than 50%, but I also added some caveats in there. Appeals will reduce that amount, that, instead of being up 52, it might be up 50 or 48. So the one caveat is we still have to do appeals at our level. 2, we have to finish the assessment of the city. So we have Lakeview and then the south side to go. That'll change the picture a little bit, but we have more than 75% of the value in the city in so far. So it's getting to be a pretty more accurate picture. And then there's a whole other level of appeals that is done at the board review, which can further change how much total assessed values are up. So unfortunately, we'd like to give you a nice pat answer, but we can't. And now we're only talking about assessments. We haven't even started talking about property taxes yet. The city of Chicago and the Chicago public schools have determined how much their levy is changing. It usually only changes a couple percentage points each year. You'll hear lots of discussion in the news sometimes about property taxes, but in the grand scheme of things, the city is raising its levy a couple percentage points a year. We'd expect, if the current situation holds where assessed value is up in the neighborhood of 50%, and if your assessment's up 10 or 15%, I would expect your bill to be down next year, even with the city raising its levy. But there's a couple of things that still have to happen yet. We do have a calculator up on our website if you want to try, where you can run different scenarios. It's called the tax rate simulator tool. It's used by commercial investors, but you as a homeowner can do it too. And you can plug in your own assessed value, and then you can plug in how much you think the base is going up in Chicago. And then you can plug in how much the levy is going up in Chicago and see how much that changes your bill. It's an educational tool. So there are some caveats that go with that, but you can see how a change in your assessed value when everyone else's assessed value changes can lead to a smaller change in your bill than you'd expect.
Okay, and I just dropped that simulator tool in the chat. So yeah, please test drive it and try it out. Okay, one of our most frequently asked questions here comes from Cheryl Slotnick. And I know Teresa's going to be anxious to talk about this one. What formula is used to determine the long-time homeowners exemption? You're on mute still. You're on mute, Teresa. Can you hear me?
I can hear you now.
There you go.
Okay, great. So the long time exemptions, the requirements for the long time exemption is number one, you in your home for 10 years, okay? You must have been in your home for 10 years. And so that's from 2010 and 2020. As I stated, the only 2% actually qualifies for that exemption, okay? And that's about 11,000. Your household gross income must be less than 100,000. And your equalized assessed value must have been going upward, set by state legislator. Now, we can't tell right now if she qualifies, but if she contacts us or put it in the Q&A, we can see if she qualifies. But we actually mailed out letters to those people who qualified for this exemption. Now, we don't know her income, but we do know if her equalized assessed value has been going up over that period of time. So that's what determines how you qualify for the long time exemption.
Okay, great. Yeah, as I said, it's most frequently asked question. It's really complicated. Most people, they think they qualify, been in their home 10 years, can check that box, make under 100,000 can check that box, but there's so much nuance. As Teresa said, you can always send us your PIN. We've got someone great on our staff, Lumi, who directs our taxpayer services. I've seen him quickly put together a detailed spreadsheet for people looking at local market values as to why they don't qualify. But I know it's frustrating.
It is frustrating because we're not trying to be meanies by making it hard to qualify for. The legislature of Springfield, they created this exemption and they made it very restrictive. So just the number of people can get it is measured in the thousands. Even though, we in an ideal world, we might hope more people could qualify. And hey, everybody, I have to run, so I'm going to leave it in the capable hands of our great outreach team here. Thank you, Alderman Hopkins. Thank you, everyone, for joining us here tonight. We know you could be in so many different spots, but I will go and just thank you. Please reach out to us at cookcountyassessor.com if you need anything. We got lots of tools there for you. Thank you, Alderman.
Thank you, Assessor. Appreciate your help tonight.
Thank you too, Alderman.
Okay, so we're gonna do a couple more questions, guys, and then we'll let the Alderman close us out. Let's see. So if I can understand this question, another anonymous attendee, homes are the same. So I guess you're talking about, neighboring homes, comparable homes. One is like me, single. The other is a family of 4. I don't think they are vets. I've been inside of their home. So potentially this person's talking about the veterans exemption, and maybe they're getting that exemption, and maybe you think, they don't qualify for it. Maybe you're bringing that to our attention and to the
well, that's a great point
tonight. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's a great point.
We have a way to deal with exemptions that are erroneous, right, Teresa?
We do. We have an erroneous department, and if you feel as though someone is collecting exemptions or receiving exemptions and they should not be, definitely let us know, because that means that they're not paying their fair share and you're paying too much of your share. So we would like to know. I mean, you can put it in anonymously. You can call us over the phone, or you can call me, and we would definitely investigate it for sure. And a lien will be placed on that home too if we found out that there's something erroneous going on with those exemptions, for sure.
Okay. What are another anonymous user, what are your options for appeal filing certificates of error when the assessment window has closed for your township? So let's say you missed a deadline.
Okay.
of October.
So if you missed our deadline, which is October 19, you certificate of errors you cannot file with the board of review, but you can possibly contact the Cook County Board of Review and see if their window is open. I believe right now they're doing a pre-filing, so they may be able to file with the board of review. But with the certificate of errors, you must file certificate of errors when your township is open. Okay, those things have to be done at that time. Certificate of errors for appeal process. So say we overvalue the home square footage and you want to file certificate of error based on the prior years, file it when that window is open. That's why it's very important that we file during that period, during your time frame, and you don't miss your deadline.
Yeah, and then also just remember, there's also the board of review. So I mean, that's one of the reasons that body is in place after our appeals window closes. Theirs usually opens almost simultaneously. So that's another avenue for you to appeal. So let's see. Another question. Where can you see exemptions for neighbors? So you're looking for comparables. You want to know what kind of exemptions your neighbor may have gotten. Our website, we can, not to cut you off, Teresa, but there's also, you're probably going to say, it's a property tax portal, which
Yes.
You taught me from day one, which is a great resource. And I'll put that in the chat as well. But there's a couple different websites. You can just pop in a PIN number and you can see if that exemption is there, if they got certificates of error. You can see their values. So all this information is public. Did you want to add anything, though, Teresa?
So that's great.
I didn't want to steal all the thunder. I apologize.
Oh, no, that was great, Calvin. Definitely, it's called the www.cookcountypropertyinfo.com. And you can see all the exemptions that person is receiving, and also on our website as well. You can also, on that website, the Cook County Property Info, you can see assessed value, you can see building square footage, and all of your characteristics. It's like a one-stop shop from all the county offices on that one page. So it's very helpful. So the Alderman's back.
Okay. And I know we're about at time and about to wrap up. I want to get one or even two more questions because these are real simple ones.
Yeah, there's actually a question on there that I haven't seen before, and I would like you guys to cover it if you can, because it has some relevance to my ward, which has 2 historic districts within it. How do you handle appeals when you're searching for comps and the property is in a historic landmark district, but let's say it's close to the border of that district and you've got comps a block away that are not in the district? How do you adjust for that?
Yeah, and that possibly should have been a question for Fritz with the assessment portion of it. But as we have, Alderman, we do have the narratives. And that's what the narrative piece is for. When you have circumstances that's unusual in that case, that's why you provide a narrative. That's when you provide pictures or give us a better insight of what we need to look at. So that's, as a prior analyst, that's what we would do.
And I think sometimes, Teresa, we can send field inspectors out to kind of take a special look. I mean, it's hard, for example, to find comparables when you've got a Frank Lloyd Wright, right? You know, where do you find comparables? There may only be a few other just like that in the country. So as Teresa said, you know, using that narrative feature, you can upload so much information on our website. You can upload, you know, pictures, you know, you can upload just, you know, detailed information, you know, about, you know, the architects, the background on this property that makes it so special and so unique, you know, that we do take into consideration. But that's a really great question.
Yeah, shout out to whoever asked that question. As I mentioned, I've been doing these seminars for years, you know, and that I thought I'd seen all the questions. That is a new one.
Yep.
So
that is a great question.
To you.
No, that is a great question, because what I would do if I owned that home is I would definitely take pictures. I would upload them. I would write a narrative. I would want a field check. I would do all of the above, you know?
Yep. Excellent. I did see a question. Could you send all the exemptions I'm entitled to with my reassessment notice? I'm going to put a link in the chat that explains in detail all of our exemptions. On our website, under each exemption, there's frequently asked questions. So there's a great deal of detail on our exemptions on our website, but I will drop that in the chat in just a moment. But as Teresa outlined, there are a bunch of them, and we want you to see if you qualify, because we certainly don't want people to be missing it. I think someone mentioned the landmark question. I think we covered that. So I
And
think
Alderman,
we've gotten to most of them, unless you see any Alderman that I may have missed.
Yeah.
Were you going to say something, Teresa?
I think you
Yeah,
got
I
it.
was just gonna say, I would definitely, I'm going back to that person because that concerns me about the historical property and in the district where there is no comparables. Because sometimes we have individuals who file an appeal and there's no comps that's out there on our website. So, and it's really key that you give us the information because you know your home better than we do.
Okay, I'm going to drop that exemption information from our website in the chat right now. And then I just want to thank everyone for having us. We hope this information was useful. We do a lot of these. So, we're going to be doing another one Thursday with some other partners as well. So please follow us on Facebook. Our Facebook page is probably the best source to find out kind of where we are, how to sign up. We're starting to do more in person as well, safely. So, please continue to follow us. We just want to make sure this information gets to many people as possible, so that they understand, their rights, and that they understand, the opportunity, to appeal if you do feel like you're overvalued, and then also the valuable information that the assessors share. Just sort of how we come up with our numbers. Transparency is really important to us, and having the opportunity, for him to present sort of what's under the hood with his data and with his modeling. We want to make that as available and as accessible as possible. So without further ado, thank you guys so much for your time. Thank you, Alderman. Would you like to say any closing remarks, Alderman?
Yeah, thank you, Kelvin. Thank you, Teresa. Very informative and
Thank you.
helpful. I think it bears repeating that what we're talking about here tonight is a complex system, and all of the hard work that goes into getting assessments accurate, and all the hard work my office does assisting people who want to file an appeal, who think that there's been an error or it's unfair. It's really treating the symptom, right? The larger problem is Illinois is one of a handful of states that relies primarily on the property tax system and local revenue to fund its education system. The cost of the schools are the primary driver of the levy increases that Assessor Kagi mentioned. We pay for our school system through our local property taxes, even though the Constitution of the state of Illinois says the state has the primary responsibility to pay for schools. That has been interpreted by the courts to mean less than 50%. And that's really what happens. So we do not get the level of state funding that we need. And as a result, we rely on local property taxpayers. So anyone who lives in an area that I represent in the second ward, where the assessed valuations of the properties tend to be higher relative to the rest of the state, you get hammered. It's an unfair system to you. And we do the best we can to try and work around the margins of it. But that's the reason that I vote against property tax increases. I voted against it when Mayor Emanuel proposed it. I voted against it when Mayor Lightfoot proposed it. It's because of that inherent unfairness that's baked into the system. So I just wanted to acknowledge that. I know a lot of you came tonight because you feel you have a high property tax bill that's unfair to you. And I just wanted to acknowledge you're right, in my opinion. And this is what we can do about it. It's not, again, it's not treating the underlying cause. It's treating the symptom, but it's a tool that we have available. So we try to extend it to you. So thank you, guys. Thanks for your attention.
Thank you,
Anyone
guys.
needs additional assistance, feel free to contact my office, and we'll be glad to help. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks for your partnership, Alderman. And thanks, guys.